I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube. Jules Saints. I'm joined by the author of the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, Patrick McCray.
Can't believe you said that. Right before we went on, I can't believe you're a father, you're a Christian, you're an American, and you said those things, Jewel. Those horrible, horrible things. Listen. My ears are too tender. So when do we go on? When do you start the recording?
Well, I started it now.
Oh God. Oh, and by that I'm kidding, of course. So.
Are you not being nice to your friends again?
The things your husband said.
Would you like me to whoop him, sir?
The things your husband said. It's astounding. I had to get.
We're mutually appalled at you.
I had to get a very special. Well, no, I'm not appalled. I'm impressed in some ways. I had to get a very special dictionary, a veterinary dictionary, and a medical dictionary just to figure out what he was talking about. It was.
Oh, I never know what he's talking about, so we're
several
good.
different languages. Hey, that guy's a genius.
He's
You're both lucky. You're both lucky.
Oh my God! But here joining me is my buddy Patrick McCray, author of the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. We have been going through 1841 parallel time, and we're at not just the final episode of this arc, but the final episode of Dark Shadows. Episode 1245, my friend. The opening narration is done by Grayson Hall, obviously. Good job as always. The really good episode here. A lot of physicality between Morgan, between Bramwell. We get Bramwell who gets shot by a flintlock, or at least it looks like a flintlock. And he's actually shot in the room. After the curse ends, they break the curse. Catherine and Bramwell break the curse. And I love Lewis Edmonds here. You've won. You've won.
Yeah.
Really, really powerful. What did you think of Lewis Edmonds' Brutus?
You know, it's impossible to play a villain like this and not just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is as profound as this character is for the, literary life of Dark Shadows. For a performance like Louis Edmonds is having a ball.
Yeah,
He's, to think that he started playing this incredibly repressed character who can only work out his angst on a frosted brandy snifter. And whenever you see a frosted glass on Dark Shadows, you know it's going to get broken. And to think he's gone from that to cackling madly with this beard, you've won, you've won. You may have just won $1 million. Ed McMahon is headed over to your house. It's a very dated joke, but it dated me.
I really enjoyed his performance. He's not in this arc a whole lot, but his character's presence is, which is really well done by the writers, the effect team, and absolutely Lewis Edmonds. And the rest of the characters, such as Gabriel, the characters who have come and gone and the characters who are still here have all sold this room and the power of Brutus Collins. And it's really, really well done by everybody involved. I mean, it is phenomenal job. I can't say enough good things about what they did with this by the end of this. And to have Lewis Edmonds, at the end here, great job. He tries to sway Catherine one last time. He tries to, strangle Bramwell. Neither to no avail. And finally, they just say, nope, it's done. We've won. And he says, you've won, and you've won, and he disappears. No more Brutus. But we get a modern day Brutus in our buddy Keith Prentice's character, Morgan Collins. He's still crazy. He's batshit crazy in this episode.
Full bore guano.
He is. He's just, I really enjoyed his madness. I mean, it is such a it's not a subtle thing, but the way they said it, it's
no, it's not.
It's not a subtle thing, but the way they sort of set it up, they make it look subtle. But the writers are leaving little hints that it's going to happen in the prior episodes. The first real episode I think you see it is a couple episodes ago when they're going to have the lottery drawing again, and they end up having it. And prior to them having it, he says to Catherine, he goes, with Daphne dead, when Daphne dies, it means, Bramwell will be free again. And he's concerned that if he goes in the room, he goes, promise me, Catherine, if I go in the room and die, that you will not marry Bramwell. And there's where you first start to see sort of the wheels are turning. But with this, the wheels are fully off. They're gone.
Yeah, they're he's down the hill. He's like one of the little rascals, on that grass covered hill, screaming for his life. So, I don't know, something like that.
He is, and he does a really good job here with the pistol. I like how he grabs Catherine and he takes off. And Bramwell, he's okay. He's only been wounded in the shoulder. And you also have the recovery of Melanie in this episode. You have John Carlin going to go check on her character after he does one search for Morgan, and then after he checks on her, he continues the search. And in many ways, you got to give Kendrick a lot of credit, because in many ways he's pretty much the hero of this episode in a way.
Oh, he definitely is. It's something unpredictable, but in the end, it's right. And I don't know about you, but I know I had the time of my life.
Absolutely, the episode's just a pure blast to watch. Though we get some sort of, we get a lot of soap opera stuff in the episode overall. There's just good, clean fun in this episode, from the shooting to what goes on inside the room.
What does that say, Jewel, about both of us? You just said it's just good, clean fun, from the shooting to what goes on in that room. What has become of us? What has Dan Curtis done?
Dan Curtis gave us a wonderful, wonderful series that is full of joy, sadness, laughter, and it entertains the hell out of us.
He really did. He really, really, really did. And I've been occasionally speculatively quizzical about some of Mr. Curtis's decisions,
Yes.
but that's very easy for me to do, because I have absolutely none of the pressures
No.
that Dan has, and I wasn't present for anything, so I know nothing about nothing.
I think when you look at the series overall, it shows you why it stands the test of time. It has everything a modern day series has in it today. It has your tragedy, it has your romance, it has your action, it has your horror, your suspense, the effects, the melodrama, everything, and even some Shakespearean melodrama, if you will. It has time travel. Dark Shadows, though it took from the classic monsters, in many ways reinvented those classic monsters and made them their own. From the vampire that would be Barnabas, a phoenix. When you look up a phoenix is a mythological creature that rises from the ashes every 100 years. They literally took it as a person. They made it into a person and brought it to life, which was amazing. It had an actress, Dana Malay, great performance. Laura Parker as Angelique, and in this arc, Robert Rodin as Adam. I'm not trying to name everybody, but everybody did a great job, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I agree. Keep going.
With this series, it keeps you coming back to it. It's why I go back to it and watch it all the goddamn time. It's because it's entertaining. No matter how many times I've watched the episode, even though I know what's going to happen, it still entertains the hell out of me, because they literally made a series that you could go back and appreciate the work they put into it. And the writers, the actors, the actresses, from the set designs, and even when they do use Seaview Terrace, yes, as a backdrop, but they do actually film shots at Seaview Terrace in the beginning episodes. So you do get some real location early on, but even with later on, when you see the backdrop shots, they look wonderful. They have everything about Dark Shadows, the original series, has aged perfectly. And that's hard to say about any series.
It's really a remarkable piece. And that there is so much of it, and that it really does hang together.
Yeah.
And how many things can you say that about? Really, not many.
No.
Not many at all.
I think even too, when you look at the Leviathan arc, I know some people don't like it, but there's a lot to appreciate about it. You have this dark breathing that goes on, and you don't see what's doing it, and it's scary as hell. You have this little antique shop where this creature is living, and this monster is just going into this room, and you don't know what the hell it is. And the fact you don't know what the hell it is, and it's just driving your imagination nuts, but it keeps you coming back to find out what the heck is this guy. It's amazing. It
really is.
Christopher Pennock did a great job at, as any character he played. And really, my favorite character personally, easy enough for me to say, personally, is Sebastian Shaw. Really, great character, psychic ability. I did love his science, Jekyll and Hyde, really well done. Gabriel is just a lot of fun to watch. This arc, the drunk Gabriel, he knows where all the liquor's hidden.
Sure he does.
It's just it's a hoot of a character to watch. And then when you watch his madness, you feel sorry for him, even though he was a bit of a chicken shit. You feel sorry for him that he's going through it because he doesn't want to.
No, and I mean, has he really done anything to make himself a horrible husband?
No,
I don't think he has. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that I think you have every reason to feel sorry for the guy.
you do. He's no one asked to be a Collins, but when you're born a Collins, you have this expectation set upon you, and some characters rise to that expectation, and some take that expectation and handle it their own way. It's fun to see the different characteristics that Dan Curtis and the writers brought to life. And if everybody was the same way, it would just be a boring show. No one's the same way, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, who would, you wouldn't know who was talking,
right?
Yeah, if everybody was the same. Who do you think overall in Dark Shadows? If you sort of follow the McCray school that these are all the same character. Let's just pretend that for a moment. They're all the same character. Who grows the most?
The most.
Who grows the most? You think over the course of the series, what actor character evolves the most?
I got to give this to, well, it's tough because there are, as much as I want to give it to Jonathan Frid as Barnabas, I got to give it to John Carlin as well.
I was going to say John Carlin. Great choice. Yes.
I really do. I mean, because I'll get into Barnabas's origin here in a moment, but I want to touch on Willie Loomis. Here's Willie Loomis, who's brought into Collinsport by Jason McGuire. Jason McGuire is a con artist and a thief. Willie Loomis is a thief and a thug. I mean, literally, this guy is one bad SOB. And he he presents himself as such. He flirts with the women. He has no problem trying to harass them. They're scared of him. They're intimidated by him. Hell, Carolyn almost blows his damn head off with Roger's revolver. It's this. And it's like, wait, that doesn't sound like the Willie Loomis that it was at the end of the series, because it wasn't in every way. He grew as a character, and really the character who helped him grow, to give the credit, yes, John Carlin and the writers, but Jonathan Fritz Barnabas helped him grow, his interactions with Barnabas. And there's moments where they literally do become real friends when John Carlin finally reemerges after, because John Carlin's character has been through a lot of hell. I mean, he went to the sanitarium because he was framed for Maggie Evans's kidnapping, which was one of the best frame up jobs you'll ever see.
It was really priceless.
Right. The rain in the candle stick holder is funny. And he comes back, and you can tell by when he comes back, he should have stayed in that sanitarium. He's still half crazed.
Yeah.
His interactions with Maggie are sweet and kind. You can tell he cares about her. And he really he was wanting to warn her. He didn't want Barnabas to hurt her. But he can't say that. And you can tell he wants to say it. So you can see the characters, even though in his madness state, somewhat growing there. And then by the time when John Carlin leaves again and comes back in the Leviathan arc as Willie Loomis, you see a completely mature character of, he goes, I'll help you. And this coming after Julie goes, I could put you back in Wincliffe. And Barnabas says, no. If he wants to go, let him go. Look, yes, Barnabas does grow as a person, as a character, no question. But the person who grew the most to me was Willie.
I agree with you, and it's especially if you kind of combine all the John Carlin characters together, and you look at that as one chain of evolution, where he starts out and how he ends up. The most trustworthy guy, the last man standing, and that's what Ben Stokes was, the last man standing.
Yeah, in many ways, there's moments too. We are going to pick episodes at random, but I challenge any Dark Shadows fan to really go back and start at the Barnabas Collins arc and go by episode where you're watching Barnabas and Willie, and when Maggie is kidnapped, there's a moment when Barnabas is going to go down and supposedly kill Maggie. Well, here's the thing. John Carlin's Willie Loomis is standing there talking to him about not doing it. Barnabas is listening to him. He has no reason to listen to him. It's a very mature moment between both characters.
Those are the moments that really make the show worthwhile. As I've said, and as Dark Shadows requires unbelievable patience.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. And when it pays off, you have really accomplished something. I mean, I think as a viewer, I feel like we've earned it.
We've earned to watch all these characters grow. They've all come from a beginning and to an end. And every character has their own unique trait, their own unique style, their own unique, whether it's anger, love, hate. We get to see so many different characters and characteristics from the actors who played them, and it's just fun to watch. You have this moment, literally, where you're introduced to Angelique, who's the servant, and you have no idea she's a witch. And then you learn she is one. And it's like, oh, holy shit, still today, like you can go back and watch it and still be shocked by this because it's not something you're expecting. Yes, even though I heard the laughter in the mausoleum in 363, I'm not expecting a witch.
I think it could have been the wind. I still maintain it was the wind.
It could have been, but it's something that where you watch this woman who says, I'm in love with you, Barnabas. I'm in love with you, Barnabas. And she'll do anything to get him, to have him as hers. And to watch this is just pure, it's pure determination by a character who's so driven to do the wrong things.
So then is Angelique the one who grows the most then?
She would be my number 2. She would. As much as I'd like to give her or Barnabas number 1, I got to give it to Willie. I would put Angelique and Barnabas tied for 2 because I couldn't put either at 3. I mean, really, they both grow. And really, the reason they grow is because they've learned so many mistakes. And really, when you look at Barnabas, him coming out of the coffin, when he's talking to Josette's portrait, it's not out of anger. It's not out of hate. Though he does feel betrayed, which is something we're going to learn, by his father not shooting him, because that's the thing to keep in mind. Barnabas didn't expect to be alive in 1967. He expected his father to put a bullet in his head. You know, that's what he expected. But no.
And his father would.
Yeah, that his father would put a bullet in his head. And no, he didn't. So now here's this guy, you know, well over 100-something years later, who feels probably betrayed by his own father. And he has every reason to feel that way. And then there's Josette. There's him knowing about Angelique. And then there's Angelique. There's knowing about what Angelique has done. And then there's Angelique herself, who knows what she's been through with how she's felt about Barnabas and how she feels he hasn't really moved on from her. And she's not totally wrong. You know, you really see these characters go through a lot of growing pains because there's lessons, as you've pointed out, that they must learn.
That's what it's about.
You know, Dark Shadows has been about that, and it was about that in this arc too. There's lessons to be learned. Everybody thinks that they didn't know who put the curse on them. They thought it was James Forsythe. They were wrong. It was one of their own. For the first time in Dark Shadows history, you had a Collins cursing the Collins family. You know, which is amazing. You know, great stuff. Dark Shadows always had great storytelling with great imagination and great characters. And that's fun.
What is your number 1 takeaway from this episode, looking at it in the context of the whole show?
That it's a story from the whole show, or sorry, my context of the whole show.
The
question.
From the whole show, the context of the whole show is about one thing and one thing only, and that is the family themselves. And how it isn't just the family who is here to help you, it's the people who you let in your home who can help you.
That's right. I really believe that. I think that it doesn't take long for a family to become an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And to only hear itself. And it is, and of course, this is my perspective because I am the eternal outsider. Family is a very limited thing for me. And so, I think one of the things I really identify with about Dark Shadows is that on one hand, it is a family that I would love to be a part of.
Right.
And at the same time, I am always the outsider. And so I appreciate the status that not the family gives to outsiders, but fate gives to outsiders. And Barnabas, manages to be both things for most of his existence. I mean, geez, from the moment that he suspects, or that he knows that Josette's cheating on him, and that he shoots Jeremiah, and then marries a serving girl.
Yeah.
This immediately makes him even more of an outsider. It's sort of like the fate that you try to fight hardest is the one you will slide right into. So, Barnabas is able, you have to be an outsider to be able to see things accurately and join in. I think that's why we never really saw Barnabas as the head of the household. He sort of is briefly when Roger's out of town, when Clinton's haunting everything, but not really. And when he finally tries to take on the role of insider, which is in the Ragnarok sequence, he can do nothing. It's really it's only from the outside. It's only with that other perspective, which of course, what perspective do the viewers have?
Yeah.
They'll never be Collinses. They are outsiders as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all outsiders to the Collins world. We're all guests.
Mm-hmm.
And some guests who show up don't always stick around. They either get killed off. We've seen. Look, why does Kendrick show up at Cullen? His sister. He's looking for his sister, who is dead. And why does Victoria Winters show? Victoria Winters is sent a letter by Elizabeth Collins' daughter to come to Collinwood. Barnabas shows up out of the past, out of his coffin, into the present day. He's your first real time traveler, if you will.
Oh yeah.
He's even though his last name is Collins and he is a Collins, he's an outsider because he can't live as the present day Collinses do. He has to live in the darkness. He has to live by night. He has to live off the blood of others or animals. You see a lot of this constantly with Dark Shadows, that it often is. The Collinses are always reflected, yes, but through the audience, but through the outsiders that we see them through, like Victoria, Burke, Barnabas, and so forth and so forth.
Even David, being a kid and thus being powerless, only being in a position to snoop.
Yeah.
In this weird house where for 6-7 years is just him and his aunt, his weird aunt, and Carolyn.
Yeah.
There's not even, I guess, Matthew Morgan. Great. That's a lot of fun. And then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, his father isn't the best role model for him. He has
his father is not the best role model for him.
And here's Matthew Morgan, who is loyal to his aunt, but that's about it. That's where his loyalty lies. His aunt. And here's Carolyn, who yes, she cares for David, but she knows David can be a monster. She sort of views David as that, and she knows Roger and David's relationship isn't the best. And here's Elizabeth, who needs to sort of fix this train wreck that's gone on in her house.
Gotta have fun with that.
Yeah. And so what does she do? She brings in an outsider. She brings in Victoria Winters. And how would you, I've talked about this when we ended our last episode. How would you have ended 1841 Parallel Time? The final episode.
Well, I certainly would have had them at least attempt to get in the room. As I stated bitterly yesterday, I would have. That's a good question. the end of it, I would have had go exactly this way. I've conjectured on other endings before to sort of bring everything full circle. Maybe it's Victoria finishing a novel about, sort of going Lord of the Rings style with it. Finishing a novel that's about the Collins family, and that this is something that she has written in, the year, 17 whatever, when she's on the road with Peter Bradford. And, the idea is that, well, no one will ever read it. No one will ever see it. I'm glad I got this out of my system. Now I guess we need to move on. Is this, and Peter maybe says, is this what you think happened or will happen in 1840? And she said, no, there's no Brutus Collins or anything like that, but it's what I would have liked to have had happen. I never got to see the end of it. I don't know if the producers would have gone there or if Alexandra Moltke would have gone there. But I would have been I think something like that, just as a coda for the end of the show. Although I'll say this, at the same time, that kind of ending risks turning into Enterprise.
Yeah.
Where, Enterprise, ended this show because really, this is Dark Shadow's, third or fourth spinoff. Actually, if you think about all of the time travel as being spin-offian, that this is, that might have been disrespectful to the current actors who were there. She left the party early.
Yeah. Okay, the final episode.
How would you have done it?
The final episode, you see you hear Melanie's attacked. Now, a servant comes in, carrying her in. Stokes comes in. Ben Stokes, that is.
Sure.
So you have Bramwell, Catherine, Kendrick. Melanie's on the couch with bite marks. Julia's in the room. And the only difference I would have had is Carrie would have walked in, but she doesn't go into the drawing room.
Would have been nice.
She doesn't go into the drawing room. And they say about the bite marks, and you hear you hear either one of two things. One would have been, "Oh my God," and they all walk out, and Bramwell's like, "What? He's in his own time now. He's in his own time." And her hand's on the portrait of Barnabas. And he's gone back to 1795, and she sees it. That or when she touches it, she sees our Barnabas in his timeline, and she goes, "There's a whole other world out there that we never knew existed." Only this time, it's the other Stokes, the female Stokes that Kathy Cody plays, touching the portrait with her, and they switch.
That's nice.
Either way.
Okay, Jewel, you got me. That's good. That's really clever.
You could have did it that way, or you could have did it where you suggested this. I'll give my buddy here, Patrick McCray, all the credit, where she's touching the portrait, and there we go into Victoria from the beginning, coming to Collinwood. That would be.
Yeah. That was my idea. Yeah. That, I see a woman on a train.
Yeah.
And she begins to state Dan Curtis's, dream verbatim.
Yeah. That would have been cool. I mean, there's a look. I am so excited. I know you are too, about the potential Mark B. Perry series. I'm excited.
Sure.
I am so excited. Every day, like, I wake up hoping to hear something. But I'm just that excited about it. But until then, we have an entire original series we can watch until we hear something, which I love doing, and I love talking about this because it's just so much fun, and it's a series we all love.
Joel, let me ask you a question. Since you started doing this,
Yes.
how has your life changed?
My life changed. It really hasn't.
Good for you.
Doing a channel about Dark Shadows, it didn't change my life because the one thing I've always tried to be is a good husband and father. I put my wife and kids first. If something comes up, I'll say, hey, I can't do this tonight, and I won't do it. Or like if I have you as a guest, I'll say, hey man, something came up, I can't do something. And it usually has Julie and the kids because I have responsibilities, and my family is my responsibility first and foremost. I love doing this. I love talking Dark Shadows. Don't get me wrong, but my family does come first. But Dark Shadows is something that I will always talk about, no matter what. Wherever when I go somewhere, when I go to like the store, I ask somebody, "Hey, have you ever watched the 1966 Dark Shadows?" And I'm like, "No, what is that?" And I'll explain it to them, and I'll say it's free on Tubi. You can watch it.
And do that? Have you ever had anyone come back to you and say, "Well, I watched that thing you recommended to me, Mr. Sane.
I've had
a divorce," or
everybody tells me that they'll watch it.
Yeah.
That they're going to watch it. So I've talked to, let's see, a total of 30 to 40 people who I see at the store, and I say it to about it, and they've all told me that they'll watch it. So my hope is that they do, and they have the time of their life watching this because it's a lot of fun.
Do you have any advice to them for how to watch?
Me personally, my advice would be you can start where you can either start in episode 211 because I think you could pick up there, or you could start at the beginning, which is Victorian Winters. That's my way to go. I don't jump so far as to say start at 1795, which you could do,
Yeah.
But my suggestion has always been to everybody start at the very beginning with Victorian Winters and go from there. Because if you get through those beginning episodes, to me, those episodes taught me that patience. Those early episodes really do teach you patience and help you appreciate the show from where it first began to where it went along and how it got further and further along. It gave you the appreciation to wait for those most intense moments.
That is a very wise way to look at it, and I it's not the way I suggest. It depends, it really depends on the person.
Right. It does.
If it's a casual viewer, I always say start with start around episode 700.
Yeah.
Start with 1897, just so that they have a good time.
Yeah.
And if they have a good time with that, at that point, I say, okay, if you enjoyed that, if you got through that, and it worked for you, you really have an amazing trip ahead of you with the rest of the show.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, but that's just my approach on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does depend on the person, because there are going to be people who don't have the patience to watch. They're not going to look. No one's going to sit there and watch Dark Shadows every day. We all have lives.
Yes.
But you can start Dark Shadows at the beginning, or you can start Dark Shadows wherever you'd like. It's a show I think you can literally watch and just get hooked on because it's that good. What's your favorite scene from this episode? I didn't.
Um, I think my favorite scene is anything with that piece of romantic music
Yeah,
behind it. That string piece,
yeah,
uh, and just the. I am so in love with that music. I barely hear the dialogue because they are all finally. That's it. Yeah, da na 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 na. That one.
yeah.
Um. Uh. Which no one's going to be paying to hear my cover of it anytime soon. Um, but I feel very strongly about that. I think it's just a humdinger of a piece of romantic music, and I am it 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 is the first time on Dark Shadows, and I think probably a lot of people will identify with, where I genuinely know everything's going to be all right. And for the first time in 5 years of watching, the show, I can breathe.
Yeah.
So,
There,
so I think for me, it's that may be a shallow answer.
no,
And then seeing Morgan get his is obviously great, and people declare their love and so on and so forth is it's very sweet. It's nice. It feels like we've earned it. You know, I'm reminded of that line in Star Trek 3 where Kirk says, "What do you want? A hero's welcome, son?" God knows we've earned it.
man. Joan Bennett's Flora Collins forgiving Bramwell and Catherine and saying she wants them to stay. I
Oh
think it
yeah,
is
that's
my
a that's a big moment.
yeah, it's my favorite moment in this episode. It shows the maturity of the characters and her character as well, because I mean she's lost a lot, and here she shows why she is the matriarch of the household.
Yeah,
I mean, Joan
yeah,
Bennett, what a performance. Uh,
yeah, and that very much it puts a cap on the Liz kind of experience.
yeah, it does. It's sort of, even though it's not the character of Liz, it pays in every way homage and tribute to that character that she played. It makes you could see Elizabeth saying that, you know.
It's yeah, I mean she's come home. She's
Yeah,
come full circle.
yeah. And it was just great to see. Um, Wonderful episode. It's just a lot of fun this episode. It's not dull. It's not something you'll sleep on. There's just a lot of fun in it. There's a lot of seriousness in it too. Again, we've talked about how adult 1841 is, and it is adult, very much so. This arc is not boring. I'm gonna leave. There's gonna be 3 links in the description box, 2 YouTube videos. One to the other. The third one is going to be to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound, obviously. Is there anything you want to add about this episode, sir?
I said once that spiritually it feels like it resolves every single issue in the series. And you know what? I stand behind that. I really do. I stand behind it.
Yeah, it does. In every way, this does resolve everything within Dark Shadows. So that's what makes everything, so much the fun. Not just going back and watch, but think about what Mark P. Perry might have in store for us fans. It
Exactly.
really, So it's like, man, you can't wait. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun being a Dark Shadows fan and talking about this stuff. So
It's I'll tell you, Jewel, you do such good work, and it is a payoff that we have a champion like you out there for this, and I really mean that.
thank you. I just have a lot of fun doing it.
I know you do.
So, when do you want to do the random episodes? When's a
Whenever you want to. There's no wrong time to start more Dark Shadows. So you tell me.
okay? Let's see. Today's Thursday. How about tomorrow night, 11? We'll do episode 10.
I would be nowhere else.
And then you can pick the next random episode. It'll be your turn to pick.
I like it.
Okay. So tomorrow night, episode 10 of Dark Shadows, me and my buddy Patrick McCray will be back. First of all, thank you, sir, for doing this journey with me. It is my honor to have you on here, and
It's my
fun,
honor to be had.
and it's fun talking to you. Have a good night, buddy.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.